Okay, and we're back. Sorry to everyone at home who may have lost the video feed. We're going to go back and just have Amanda quickly summarize the question she was answering when it dropped.
Quick summary. Yes, the school nutrition program for Auburn has a $900,000 fund balance, meaning that it is expenditures that they can spend without having to budget for them. And this project is something that Chris Piercy's been interested in doing for a couple years, as the middle school kitchen not only provides food for the middle school students, but also for 2 elementary and the Franklin Alternative School. And as Mr. Nair and I were speaking during the break, they also, the Full Plates grant that was received by the Auburn School Nutrition Program a couple of years ago, the majority of the processing of the food, the middle school is one of the 2 large sites where the food is being processed, and so that cooler and freezer is really necessary for storing a number of those items as it's processed, the local foods. So that kind of sums up, I think, what I said.
Does anyone else have any other questions regarding the presentation? I just have one clarifying question / comment. So I just want to make sure so that I have the numbers right. So about 6.6 million of this budget is already identified maintenance issues that were identified in the original facilities report, correct?
6.345.
Okay. So those are things that we would be looking at doing at some point over the next 1 to 3, 4 years anyway, because those are like necessary, needed maintenance requirements for the building. And then the 4.9 million is the scope of work, the cost for the renovation associated with moving the 6th grade into the building, correct? Okay. Any other questions or clarifying before we move on? Jay?
I have some logistical questions, but would that be better addressed when we have the new business item or new, like the vote?
I think it's probably fine to discuss them now. Yeah?
So when we're adding a whole class of students, do we anticipate adding an additional administrator, an additional counselor? Because that's a big load on who we have staffed currently, and I want to make sure you have your support as well.
We haven't determined that yet, but it's very likely that we will need to add additional staff in terms of administrators and guidance counselors.
One more, that's okay. And just for my own knowledge, how was the faculty and staff advised of this or included in the conversations?
In terms of the middle school staff, yeah,
Either middle school or the 6th grade.
Yep. So, in the start of the process, at opening workshop days, they had this opportunity to be able to review the information with Harriman, took feedback, have been working simultaneously with Mr. Wilson and Harriman about programming and needs. And we additionally had staff on the AMS Advisory Committee to be able to be conduits of questions and informations and have a role in the development of the recommendations. And back in the fall, in between the community forums that we had held, we had an information session with 5th and 6th grade teachers. Just, it was, let's not just to exclude 5th grade, but just and only include 6th grade. So we had 5th and 6th, and so we met with staff, and they were very supportive of the plan, asked kind of similar questions of what you just asked of what are some of those other positions that may need to happen. But we're very supportive of why are we taking so long to do this, and we're very excited about it. But so very much staff input through the process and would continue in the process.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay. Moving on, we do not have a school committee student representatives report. Dr. Doris, do we have a superintendent's report?
I have nothing tonight. Thank
Okay.
you.
I do not have a chairperson's report this evening. Adam, do we have a city council update?
Just brief update on the business of last night's meeting. I think two consequential votes occurred last night. The council extended a 180-day moratorium on needle exchange centers, so that's just another delay as we continue to debate any potential ordinance language. And then secondly, the council passed a 180-day moratorium on rent increases in mobile parks. That recently has been kind of a hot item, if you've read about it in the Sun Journal or listened to city council meetings. So those are the two big things from last night.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Adam? Okay. Seeing none, moving on to committee reports. So the agenda from the Finance Subcommittee meeting on the 13th is linked, as well as the minutes. Either Adam or Amanda, do you want to give us a quick summary of the Finance Subcommittee?
I can give it a shot. You can pull me off the stage if I botch this. As always, we start our finance meetings off with a staffing update, and I guess just briefly, Auburn School Department has 19 vacancies right now, which I think is fairly typical of this time of year. So we've been asking for updates on those monthly, so that's been helpful. Second item we talked about in preparation for budget talks, there was just one important bullet item that Amanda informed us of that I think is important for us as a council to anticipate, and that is that our insurance costs department-wide could possibly, or at least let's say we're going to make conservative efforts to budget them higher than what we were thinking. Originally we were thinking 11%. Amanda thinks that 15% is the responsible number to budget it at. As a reminder, this is not a budget item. We're not saying, hey, let's spend 4% more. We're saying that the insurance companies will increase their rates by that amount, and we have to pay it. So to be smart, budgeteers, we're gonna be conservative there and hold 15% in that line item. We'll see if we find out that it's lower than that. So next was a discussion about the state revolving funds that we just talked about with regard to AMS. I think the other piece of context that is important there to understand, originally we were going to apply for I think $800,000 or maybe it was the full $2 million, but to be expended over phases at East Auburn. East Auburn is getting new systems over there that are part of the Harriman facilities plan, so things that we need to pay for. Originally, we were going to apply for the revolving funds via communication and timeline. That didn't occur in East Auburn, and for a brief moment, we were disappointed, but I think we realized that $2 million, which you can only apply for every 5 years, actually has a better chance of acceptance or getting awarded if we tie it to the AMS project. Is this generally accurate, what I'm saying? Yes?
That is the hope, yeah.
That is the hope. So we will apply for those $2 million tied to the AMS project, not the East Auburn project. Same source of funds, same fundamental use of funds in a capital improvement project, different project. Anything?
If I could just add to that, the bond that was approved in last year's budget process did include the first phase of the East Auburn renovation piece for their air system. So we are still moving forward with that first phase as it is part of our capital improvement bond plan. So.
And then next we discussed ongoing, again, every month we're probably going to be discussing Amanda's favorite topic, the fund balance, not to be confused with a fund balance. And our fund balance, as you know, we have to slowly decrease the amount in the fund balance to get below a state mandated percentage of our operating budget. Without getting into all the numbers, and I don't have the sheet up in front of me, or do I? I believe we have moved about $280,000. Is that roughly the number?
Well, we'll find actually in the next couple weeks what our FY25 fund balance is. Is that what you're talking about?
No, we've moved out about $280,000.
About $250. Yep.
About $250 out of the fund balance into CapEx, CIP projects, capital improvement projects. So rather than ask taxpayers to go out and bond money for these projects, we've taken it from the fund balance into these projects. So presumably, we're not going to be asking for a tax levy to fund these things. We funded them from the fund balance. And then we had an update on finances. Year to date, I believe we're at 52% of revenue collected, and expenditures were generally right on track, with the exception of some line items that have their own stories to tell. But There were no red flags, so everything was positive.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about any of the items on the Finance Subcommittee minutes? Okay, moving on. The Policy Subcommittee agenda from last night's meeting is linked, as well as the Health and Safety Subcommittee minutes from our meeting on January 8th, which I can give a quick update. We have some standing items where we get a nursing update from our head school nurse, who reported that influenza cases are on the rise and nurses are facing challenges reaching new students for immunization reminders. We also had a City of Auburn report from our Deputy Chief, Matt Fifield, who also noted a rise in influenza, especially among the elderly. We had an update on social, emotional, and mental health from Mary Beth Galway, who is our guidance counselor at EL, one of our guidance counselors, noted that we have a new day one counselor who's been a great addition. However, there remains a lengthy wait list for counseling. The current number of students on the wait list is 25. Under the multilingual learner program, access testing is underway currently for students in that program. And then additional guidance update that, again, reiterated there's a wait list for counseling. The district is seeking a guidance counselor for East Auburn. Community has been instrumental in helping family in need, and then reported on some career fair college scholarship applications that are starting. Mr. Neer updated us on the ALICE training, gave us an ALICE training update for the emergency response team, reported that the ASTERT team has been meeting regularly and continuing with ALICE training drills, and they've met with the police regarding moving forward with the next event. And then under new business, I provided a presentation on the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey results, which was just conducted this past spring. Students at Edward Little, freshmen and sophomores, participated in it, and it's a biennial data survey on health behaviors, and well-being of Maine, both middle and high school students. So I reviewed the trends in a variety of metrics that students answer questions on. Do we have any questions on any of that? Okay. And then facilities subcommittee minutes are linked as well from the meeting on the 13th. I don't know as though we have, oh, do you want to give us a quick update, Scott, just on the fields?
Certainly. So back in the fall, we had been working extensively with Art Dudley, the overall general contractor for the entire Edward Little project, Harriman, Sports Fields, and Crooker, who did a lot of the excavation work, really working to be sure that those fields and would be prepared on time. And so we had a lot of discussion on specs and modifications that needed to take place. A lot of work happened in the fall with a lot of meetings and a lot of input. So fingers crossed, we are on track for the softball and baseball fields to be up and operable for the first time ever this spring. I say fingers crossed, not because of the field, but because we have the variability of winters and springs in Maine. And with a grass field, that has its own characteristics that we have to be prepared for. So Mr. Sampson and Jeremy Gatcomb are already kind of preparing of what that could look like, but if things continue on the path, we could be hosting our softball and baseball games for the first time ever on site at Edward Little.
Great, thank you. And then the only other note I think from those minutes worth mentioning is about the update on the Performing Arts Center director, that a hiring committee has been formed and the hiring process is underway to fill that position. And in the interim, there are members of the district who are fulfilling that role in the meantime. And I think that's it in terms of information that hasn't already been discussed. And then under subcommittees, we just have the AMS Advisory Committee agenda from the meeting on the 14th, as well as the minutes linked, all of which are related to everything that we've already discussed. So, okay, we don't have any old business tonight. Under new business, I'll entertain a motion to approve the AMS Advisory Committee recommendations 1 through 4 and to approve advancement of the Auburn Middle School project. Do I have a motion?
Motion to move.
Corin, seconded by Adam. Discussion, thoughts, opinions. Now is the time for that. So who would like to start?
I'll just reiterate what I said earlier. I think it's a responsible move at this point in time to advance this. I don't think there's, I mean, you guys have heard me. I incessantly just focus on finances. I don't see much of a financial risk at this point pushing this forward. Obviously, we need to push it forward to move the project forward. The one thing that I didn't bring up as a comment, just if you read through the memorandum, the rough math, bonding, $11.2 million. There were references in there of saving $1 million a year in operational costs. Well, right there, that math is essentially a net zero. We will owe about $1 million a year on, I'm assuming, a 3% rate. Maybe it's a little higher, lower, whatever, but we're talking orders of roughly within that range. So the operational costs saved will offset the debt owed, and we're knocking a significant amount of potential, CIP off the table in future discussions. But to me, it's a very sound financial plan. There's no immediate financial liability, and I support moving forward.
Other thoughts and comments?
What he said.
Corin? So I have a couple thoughts that I'll share. So first, I want to reiterate to Dr. Doris what Dr. Doris said earlier about thanking the AMS Advisory Committee members for all of their work. They've been meeting regularly over the past year. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort. So I definitely want them to all know that their service on this committee is appreciated. In terms of the need, so Scott alluded to this in the very first slide about how this reconfiguration is very long overdue, as the desire to move sixth grade to AMS was identified in several prior facilities and long-term planning documents, but has been overshadowed by the more immediate need of the new high school. And now that the high school process is behind us, I think it's really time to get back to focusing on AMS now that we have identified facility needs from the Harriman report, as well as focusing on what the best experience and education delivery is for our sixth graders. In terms of the timeline, I think that the proposed timeline allows for the transition to be very thoughtful and planned and coordinated, as organizational change of this magnitude really requires critical consideration to its impact on people, specifically our students, our families, and our staff. It also allows for plenty of time for plans surrounding our elementary schools to be carefully and thoughtfully considered. And then lastly, what Adam was saying about finance, the finance aspect of it, I feel it makes sense to include both the immediate and critical maintenance needs of the building identified in the Harriman report with the construction needed to reconfigure the space, because ultimately we're going to incur those expenses anyway over the next few years, so it only makes sense to include all of the construction projects and costs in one CIP bond if we're already going to have construction occurring on the site anyway, and it will just help reduce disruption overall to the students and staff. Any other thoughts or discussion?
I just wanted to actually have words instead of just I really support this. The facility is going to be great, but I also am, outside of that, the most important piece for me is aligning our curriculum. And I think that that's going to be more supportive to the students, the teachers. It's going to be more collaborative for the teachers and the administrators. So that's my push, is for the curriculum to have the kids be where they need to be and learning what they need to learn and supporting the administrators and teachers.
Jay?
Just quickly, as somebody that works in an elementary school with pre-K through sixth grade, I think this is very appropriate. Sixth graders don't want to be in the same building as pre-K and kindergarten. They want to be seen as pre-teens, if not teens at this point. So I feel like this is not only a good move curricularly, but also social emotionally as well.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts, comments, discussion? Misty?
So as a parent with a middle schooler, at the very beginning, I was not a fan of sixth grade moving to the middle school. They seem so squishy and small still. But after going to one of the parent nights. It was so thoroughly explained. It was very well put out. I mean, everything that they said made complete sense. And it really helped me understand why it makes sense for 6th grade and how that's not a scary thing and I should just take a deep breath and relax. So I just want to say thank you for everybody who worked on this project and for explaining it well to nervous parents. I really appreciate it. And now I feel like I really support it and understand all of it.
It's great. Okay. Seeing no other comments or discussion, so we'll move on to voting. All of those in favor of approving the AMS Advisory Committee recommendations 1 through 4 and to approve advancement of the Auburn Middle School project. All those in favor? Motion carries. Yay. It's very exciting. We have all of our upcoming meetings listed on the agenda with our next so we have our joint city council and school committee workshop on February 2nd, Monday, February 2nd at 5:30, and then our regular next school committee meeting on Wednesday, February 4th at 6 p.m. Do I have any future agenda items or requests for information? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Corin, seconded by Jay. All those in favor? We are adjourned at 7:11. Thank you, everyone, and good night.